our mixed year of weather continues. It is raining now, but more warm weather is on the horizon, which means things are going to grow more. And with that, it is now time to meet our expert this month, who is all about sustainability, turning our kitchen scraps and giving them new life. He grows many of these things in his allotment, and he uses Honda products to make sure he keeps on top of all of it. I am here with Paul Anderton, one half of the Two Dirty Boys. Now, the weather has just been so crazy so far this year. We have just gone from extreme to extreme to extreme, extreme cold in April, extreme wet in May, then June has been warm. How has it been for you? Because I know you've just got an allotment.
We have, yes. So actually, you know, we're on our second allotment plot now, so we know something about allotments. Ooh. And that's what we do on our Instagram. So, you know, we've been charting what's going on for years now. But yeah, this year was particularly turbulent. And, you know, I think everyone that has an allotment, they're used to there being changes. Every year, something's a little bit different. One year you say your tomatoes are fantastic, the next year they fail. So I think part of working a gardener allotment, you're always used to changes and failure and turbulence. But I think, you know, the big thing is if it's wetter, if you're not ready for that, I think things can go horribly wrong. And we've now got an opportunity as we move to a new allotment plot to think more about how these changes in the weather, how we might be able to fortify ourselves against them in time. So I'd say that looking at the year ahead, if we're going to have the same amount of rain next year, we probably need to think a little bit more about how we mitigate that. Yeah,
exactly. And I know at the very beginning of the year, I actually have an allotment too. It's my very first year. It is not going very well because obviously nothing can be planted out, and then if you did, it died because it was so cold so early on. So in your world of allotmenteering or in the grow your own community, you know, what were the challenges faced this year and what will they be in the future? So rain is one thing you said, but the cold must be another.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing that we've learned really is that we have a go. So we don't get bent out of shape when things die and go wrong. And so really I'd say that having a real variety of crops and then also starting things at different times.
Many weather challenges. Rain was a big one in May. Then it suddenly got warm. Our whole allotment went crazy. The weeds went crazy. And then the grass was so high, like a meadow. And then I was there with the secateurs, like cutting them. But you have slightly more advanced technology on your side.
Well, luckily we do, yeah. So this year when we moved to the new plot, Honda lent us a load of stuff that has been so helpful. So from the cordless range, we were able to tackle this.
Because you can't plug in an allotment, can you?
That's it. We don't have any electricity. We don't even have any light, you know, and the range allowed us to. Well, we do have the sun, yeah, and luckily it's there all day at the moment. But yeah, we were faced with some really long grass and weeds that were like mega power weeds. They were like triffids, just like absolutely mental. Everything seemed to spring up at once, but we were able to use, you know, the hedge trimmers on the hedges. We used the brush cutter to get into the weeds, and that had, you know, different types of. You could use the cord on it, or you could use the cutter blades. We made a real mess, and then we kind of blew it away with the blower. So, you know, we were able to tackle it. But you're right. Like this year was nuts. You're always used to. You're coming to this time of year and everything seems to jump up, but this year I think with the rain it was just particularly savage.
I saw your videos. It was almost like you were sort of like action heroes, like.
We loved it. And you know, when you're doing the blower, you get a power pack on your back.
Like a Ghostbuster.
Exactly, it's like being a Ghostbuster. So yeah, that's all been really fun.
Okay, and you know, as you were saying, the weather has been so extreme and the rainfall in the UK, you know, our winters are already 12% wetter, and the big advice is to store that water in the winter because our summers are set to get drier. What have you been doing with watering at your allotment and making sure that everything is growing?
Well, we've got tanks that we can collect rainwater in, which is great, and luckily actually our plot is on the waterworks, so we get access to, we've got water on tap, which is great. But I know that there are a couple of things that we've done to try and kind of work with there being excess water. One thing is to have much higher raised beds so that we're further away from the water table, and that's something we're going to implement in the new plot. And similarly on the reverse side, if we get some dry spells, because it can be so up and down, we've been reading a lot about how we can put more organic matter into the soil, and that's a good way of retaining moisture in the soil. So as long as we've got those two things on the go, we're not so scared. So how are things changing here in the UK because of climate change?
We're getting warmer, wetter winters and hotter, drier summers. But when the rain comes, it comes in torrential thunderstorms, meaning that you again have the dry ground and then the flooding. So it causes all kind of problems. But already the winters in the UK have become 12% wetter. And of the wettest 6 years in the top 10, they've all been in the last 22 years in records that go back nearly 200 years. So the trend is obviously moving that direction. And last year was one of the wettest we've ever recorded after the wettest February, which I'm sure you will remember. Yes. Oh, the allotment was a bit of a nightmare. And also we look at extreme rainfall events, so 30 millimetres an hour gives the risk of flash flooding. That at the moment will happen once every 10 years, but under a high emission scenario by 2070, that'll be once every 5 years. So it doubles.
Wow.
And these are the challenges we will face.
What I'm hearing you say really is it's like a forecast of wet, wet, wet. And that to me means more mowing of the lawns, more weeds, more growth. There's going to be an awful lot more work to do on the allotment, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, you know, grass is one of the biggest indicators of climate change. It's the first thing that starts growing, it's the last thing that stops growing, and our seasons are extending.
Wow. So when thinking about it, all the power tools or the equipment we've been using from Honda to tackle all of this stuff, we're going to need to use that more and more. And I feel much better now that we're using battery operated stuff, because I don't feel as guilty using petrol operated things.
It's an easy change to make, yeah.
Totally. And the other thing is, you know, when we were working on this, we found that the batteries were interchangeable. They were universal across the whole cordless range. So that's also a little bit easier. So if I've got these tools behind me, maybe we can tackle all of this extra growth.
And sometime in between you might get some sleep in too.
Maybe, who knows? At the allotment though.
Get to eat all of your veggies. By the way, I had no idea. What was it you planted? A leek?
Yes, well, you know, we've been growing all sorts of stuff from kitchen scraps. So it was a challenge that came along over lockdown because we couldn't go to the allotment at first. So we just started growing stuff from the fridge.
Yeah, the reason obviously you're doing that is because food waste is such an issue. A lot of people don't know that a third of all food produced is never consumed, and that equates to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions, which is 4 times the emissions of flying.
Which is outrageous, really, isn't it? So I believe it's 10 million tonnes of unused food a year is chucked out in the UK. It's 1 million potatoes a day. And, you know, when I was reading about this, I was surprised to hear that most of the stuff is actually coming from households. It's not coming from restaurants and from hotel groups. That was my immediate assumption. But these are things that, you know, these are changes we can actually make in our daily lives. But what people don't realise is there's loads of other ways of doing that just with kitchen scraps or things that's already in your fridge. So an example is using spring onions. So when you're going to eat them, if you just leave the bottom section that has the roots, those are ready to put back in water, and you can regrow those into full spring onions.
That won't grow again.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, within about 10 days you've got a really good tall spring onion. If you eat beetroot, you can save the top of the root where the leaves grow, pop those in water, and
grow
again,
a beetroot.
they won't grow beetroot, but they'll grow all the greens. And the greens are so good to have in a salad over summer, and in the winter you can saute them and treat it like a spinach. You can regrow your leeks, you can regrow all sorts of fun things, and even, you know, like ornamental stuff. Like we've been growing avocado stones and turning them into houseplants and giving them away as birthday presents.
That is amazing.
So, yeah, there's loads of opportunities out there, and you don't even have to leave your kitchen.
Yay for sustainability.
Exactly, yeah.
So what are you going to be doing for the rest of summer in your allotment?
It's a time where we're going to have to keep on top of the weeds and making sure everything's watered. So I'll be keeping an eye on the weather forecast to find out what lies ahead, because that's going to change what we do at the allotment.
The $1 million question. I know it's the question on everyone's lips. Summer, what is happening? Are we going to have one, or the one that many people want, hot, dry and sunny? Well, sort of mostly, yes. The moment the long range forecast for the next 2 to 3 months is temperatures around about average or maybe slightly above, and statistically it looks like rainfall will be around about average or slightly below, which is sort of the long-term trend we continue to see for our summers. The specific forecast is high pressure, never too far away. There's the chance of some showers through northwestern areas, but the central southern areas, lots of fine weather with the humidity building, the risk of some thunderstorms, but a lot of dry weather, a lot of sunshine, and temperatures average or above.